Hey everyone, I have this slightly beat up banker's box that I use to store all of my leather covers that I currently have in my collection. I quit buying leather covers from other companies like several years ago, and some of that had to do with me learning how to make covers on my own. And I really like Maverick Leather. It's like my favorite leather. And I wanted to be able to have covers made to my specifications. And so it was just a skill I honed over a lot of time, and it kind of made the need to buy from other makers pretty obsolete. So even though I purged my collection a lot over the last few years, I have kept some covers from other companies that I just can't bear to part with. But this box is everything that I have, and most of it is actually the stuff that I made myself. So I'll go in and we'll do this like brand by brand, and then I'll show the covers I made at the end, in case you don't care about that. But I'll show you the things that I've kept that have, made the cut. And I'm like 98% sure that these things that I have left in my collection will remain here and maybe be used by some family members or something like that in the future, if I don't ever get around to it. But let me get set up here and we'll go ahead and go through these. So I'm gonna start with this pile. These are all just one-offs. I only have one from each of these brands. This one is a pocket size, and it actually came from the Starbucks Reserve Roastery in Seattle. My brother actually got this for me, and I've never really used it, but it is a pretty rare item made by Hard Mill, Seattle, USA. And I don't want to get rid of it because it was a gift. And most of this stuff that I have that I kept, not most of it, but a lot of the items that ended up staying with me have been because they were gifts, and I don't want to give those away or sell them. So I have this, never really used it. When I have put a notebook in here, it really, really transferred. This is a very like saturated type of leather, and it's several years old now, and it still feels very like wet. This is a standard size from Meadowgate Leather, and I believe this shop is in the UK. Now, I don't know if any of these shops are still in business. I know that Maker South is not, so forgive me because I am not on the up and up with leather companies and leather shops anymore. But this was just a simple folio. I had this one custom made, I remembered, because I was really into cutting down my A5 notebooks to standard size. And I had that made, and there's something about that leather that I just really love. But this is this was back when she was Lady Falcon Travelers, and I had a Harry Potter one too, but I got rid of that. But there was just something about having the Middle-earth map and Lord of the Rings that I just have not been able to part with this. And I don't even think I used this for any like good amount of time. I really don't like this leather. This is so old, but it's such a dry leather, and I just don't like how this feels. It's very, very dry and like cardboard-like almost. But I just haven't been able to part with this one. So that's hanging around as well. And then this is my only hand-stitched leather tee. And this was actually a gift from Tanya because I did a video on the leather covers that I had bought, which I no longer have, but I've kept this one because it was a gift from her. But this is in the tobacco color. I know light tobacco was kind of like the more popular type of color at the time, but she had just a little bit left of this color to be able to make this for me. So I was able to customize this. And I'm just not really an A5, and I used this for like really short spurts of time, but I never really gravitate towards this, but I do like having it, and obviously it has stayed. So those are just the one-offs, and then I have a couple here from shops where I have 2 of each. So this is from Eberhardt Studio. I don't know if she's still making covers or not, but I always liked her shop because she had this really defining characteristic in her front pocket. I loved the slanted design that then went straight like that. It was really cool. And she let me pick out this brand that looks like an S, and I really loved it. This was the first one I got from her, and I used this for a little while, and then my husband took it and was kind of using it for notes, but then he fell off of that, so I took it back. And then I had this one made, and it was made to fit the Nanami notebook that was in the pocket size. And I think he quickly did away with that, which was sad because I thought that was the neatest little size. So unless I cut down a notebook to these specifications, nothing's really gonna fit in here. But I only have 2 of these. I think I only ever had 2 of these. And I had them specifically made to my specifications, and so I haven't wanted to get rid of these at all. And then I have 2 Sojourners. So I got this one off of the buy sell trade. Oh, by the way, yeah, so this is like the one weird size for that notebook that no longer exists, but this one is a B6 Slim. I forgot to mention that. So if I ever get back into B6 Slim, which I am kind of planning on, I have this as an option. So this is a standard size. It's in the Roadrunner leather. And sorry if I haven't mentioned any particular leathers. It's just because I don't know the details of what those leathers are anymore. But I do know this is Roadrunner. And I got this from the buy sell trade, and I had to get it because of all of the beautiful texture that is all over this. And if you scrunch it, the texture just comes back out even more. And it's a trifold. I really love this. It feels really weighty for being such a thin leather, and I've just gotten really accustomed to this cover, and I just could not ever let it go. And then this is the Mitzpah leather, and this is in pocket size, but this was an A6. It was either an A6 size notebook or a B6 Slim, and I chopped it down really roughly ages ago to be able to fit in here. And this, ever since I got it, has been my address book, just a physical address book. And I reference this all the time, and it's never held anything else besides this little notebook, and it's just been amazing. Sometimes I forget that this is a Sojourner, and it's like a leather cover, and it's part of my leather collection because it just kind of is its own entity. And then the last pile I have here from other makers is from Lookah. Yeah, they both say Lookah. I know he also went by Lorite. So this one is currently in use by one of my kids, and this is a really, really old Nanami Cafe Note in the A6. And I think I used this back in like 2019, and I never finished this. So one of my kids picked this notebook and picked this cover and has been using it. She's got all her fountain pens in there that I've given to my kids over like Christmas and birthdays and things. But this was the brownie leather, and I bought this along with like a nude one in this exact same size and configuration, and I ended up getting rid of that one. But this one, the texture on it is just so bold and dynamic. I've never been able to get rid of this, and I'm really glad that one of my kids is now using this. And then the other look how I have is this. This was actually a gift from Robin at Talks from the Heart. And I've kept it because of that, but also I just really love the color of this leather. He said it was something, but whatever he said this color and this leather was, I bought more covers in that same leather and color, and it was completely different than this. It was like a light orangey brown, and nothing ever matched this. So I feel like whatever this leather is, it's kind of an anomaly, and it was pretty unique. And this was like his peacock or green type leather in here, and I love the contrasting stitching on this and how it blends in to this color. So I'm attached to this one for several reasons, and it remains in my collection. So I actually thought I had much more from other companies than just these. Oh no, look, I totally forgot this whole stack. I was saving this one for last because it's the one I have the most of. So this stack is all Makers South. And they closed like a year or so ago, and I understand why, but I really was sad about that. Even though I wasn't buying covers from other companies by the time they stopped, I was just sad that their products were just being pulled from the market completely, so other people couldn't enjoy them. So I have kept all of these. A lot of the reason is because they are no longer in business. So the first two items I ever bought from them, and I've pretty much kept every single thing I've ever bought from them, which I think says a lot. I had a Moleskine expanded cover custom made by them, and I did sell that one because I was just never gonna be in that size again. So this is a standard size, this is an A6 size. They're both exactly the same. They're just folios. Don't even know what this leather is. But once I got these, I was sold on the company. I loved the stitching. Everything was handmade. They did not use sewing machines or anything like that. And their work was just so tough and rugged and impeccable. And their attention to detail was just amazing. So I really, really loved this leather. Because the pull-up is insane. I've never conditioned any of this stuff, and this is still like super saturated feeling. And then I have several Hobonichi Weeks sizes. So these were bought as a pair, and this is what I use to keep the weeks that I use to journal to my kids. One for this kid, one for that kid. And these are simple folios as well. And I just cannot get rid of these. This was the Bomber Jacket Brown, and I like never used this one, but I love the texture and the color of this leather. I asked for like the ugliest pieces, and he really delivered. But I got this for a Hobonichi Weeks I was going to use for photo journaling. And I do have a video, like one video about that attempt. And this cover is in that video. And then I fell off the wagon with photo journaling after like 1 week. But I kept this cover for the same reasons. I'm just so attached to his work and like him and his wife's work. Yeah, so they're sticking around. And this is an A6 size. And so my other kid is using this, and this is just a simple folio as well. And I got this for the Hobonichi A6 Day Free, and I used this for a little bit because I used that as my planner for a while. And this has to be one of my favorite leathers as far as the color, how pale it is, and then all the variety and texture in it. Just love this so much, and I'm really glad that I have a kid that is putting this one to use. So that is officially all of the covers that I have from other makers. So that's 16 covers from other makers, which if you knew me back then when I was a feverish and fiendish spender of leather covers, 16 is like nothing compared to what I used to have. So now I will show you all of the, basically there's just all the Mavericks that I have made, which will be interesting because some of them I haven't even seen in forever and I've kind of forgotten about them. So let's do that. That'll be fun. Okay, first up are the A5s. So this was just a regular folio. All of the pockets on the inside, typically, I used Wicked & Craig's glazed harness leather, which is the same leather as Chic Sparrow's, like Mr. Darcy or Austin leather, but because these have been in storage, they've gotten all this bloom on it, which needs to just buff out. But yeah, so I just made this for like a Hobonichi cousin or like the Midori Codex notebook. And I take this in and out every once in a while if I'm in the A5 size, which I am for like Bible journaling right now, but I'm really enjoying not having a leather cover on it. So that's that one. And then this one, which is my ultimate favorite. This is like the first A5 size I made. But this has this little slip pocket piece of leather and this random pocket over here. And I made this for the Hobonichi cousin. And I just adored having this texture on the front like this. And this was my first time ever putting snaps in. And that went pretty well. So I was glad about that. So I have these two options for A5 if I ever have the inclination to get back in there more regularly. And then we have standard size, kind of. So this one, oh, I remember this one. It's been forever, but this is what I used as my mega planner. I had like 10 inserts in here that I used for like every type of planning imaginable. So they were standard size inserts, but this is cut extremely big because I wanted to fit so many. So I have 2, 4, 6 strings in here. You know, these strings are actually nice and thin. I might actually take this out and use it for something else. But then I think this is one of the first times I did my vertical elastic closure, and that just became a thing that stuck. And I believe this leather was like the first round of Maverick leather that I ever bought, and it was extremely thick. Like this is the thickness it comes in, and then after this I found out I could get it skived down to whatever thickness I wanted. So after this, when I would order, I made sure I got the leather much thinner than this, like half the thickness. And so this one is actually, I made this kind of like wide size. So between A5 and standard size. And this was the first time I did scalloped pockets. And this was before I got the glazed harness leather for the inside. And this was a piece of work. I've never done this again, I don't think, on Maverick leather, even the thin downed version, because it was so difficult to do this. And I don't even remember the stuff I used this with, but I remember I had really bad chisels to punch these holes, and it made them really long. I bought the wrong kind. I was just learning on the fly. And I tried to restitch this, and restitching it made it look a lot better, but I still kind of hate the stitching on this. And I really love the texture though. So I don't know if eventually I'm gonna cut this down and make it standard size. I need a reason to do that though. But yeah, I really just want to improve on this stitching. And also, when I first started, I was using really thick thread, and I thought the thicker the better. And over time, I realized that I actually like the thinnest Ritza Tiger thread that they offer, like the 0.6. So this was either 1.0 or like 0.8 or something. And I was obsessed with that for a while. And then I found better choices. This one is fairly recent. And this is when I really started getting into putting fabric on just to line the inside of my leathers. So I really loved the texture of this and how I customized it. And at the last second, I decided to line it. And I did, I guess, kind of a poor job with this because I put too much glue and it stiffened this up right away. And I was just never able to really break it in. This used to be so pliable, and so part of me thinks I kind of just ruined it, but I love having the fabric interior. So maybe sometime in the future when, I don't know, I'm not as sensitive and I just don't mind how stiff this is, I'll give this a try because I love it otherwise. And then this is the only one I've kept. I had a bunch of this leather. This is the Wicked and Craig leather, but it's in the, I don't know, the nude. I don't know, they always have some other kind of name for it. But it's like Emma from Chic Sparrow or Buttered Rum, if you're of that generation. But I can't get rid of this one because I love the striations that are all over this. I do have regrets about choosing this really thick thread, and part of me wants to restitch this with the thinner version, but I'm afraid that it's not going to look good because the holes have already been, like, because I sewed it once already, the holes have gotten wide, and I feel like if I put thinner thread in, it's just not going to look fresh. It's not going to look as good. And then I think this is like almost a burgundy color with a lot of bloom on it. And because I had ordered samples of all the colors of this leather. And so this was me just trying to use up what I had. But yeah, it's just a standard size folio. And I used this for a long while and it got some really good patina on it. But I never reach for this because of the stitching, because I don't like the thickness of this thread. So that's why I'm thinking like, oh, if I just restitch it, maybe I'll actually like grab for this. But I don't know. I don't know if that's something I want to tackle. And then, is this Frank? I think I called this guy Frank. But this was some really cheap, like September leather, standard size traveler's notebook you can get off Amazon. And I bought a pack of remnant scraps off Amazon as well. And I deigned to sew a pocket on here. And this was like one of my first attempts at leather crafting. So it's really crooked. I remember using a really wonky type of chisel. It had circular holes, but this was when I first learned how to do the stitching technique properly. So this was the first time my stitching ever looked somewhat decent, but my judgy eyes right now are just like appalled at how wonky this looks. But I've kept this. I mean, it's super cheap. Like, nope, I wasn't gonna sell this. Nobody's gonna wanna buy that. And I wouldn't charge anybody for that anyway. And then I have A6. So this is what I used for my 5-year Hobonichi, and I loved this black interior. This is also the Wicked and Craig leather, and it was part of like the samples I bought in every color. But I loved the contrasting stitching on here. I am not a contrast stitching person, so it baffles me that in some of these I'm really attracted to it. But I so enjoyed using this with my Hobonichi 5-year. It always made me want to grab it and pull it out and use it. And but then like 4 years in, I quit using it. And then I got really sad that I couldn't use this cover anymore because it's not gonna fit anything else. It's literally just gonna fit the 5-year Hobonichi. But speaking of thick books, I recently made this and I never used it. This is an A6 size, but I sized it for the Midori Hibino, which I was supposed to use all this year in 2023, and then I never did. But this piece here, which I explained in the other video where I talked about the setup of the Hibino, I adore this crinkly, cracked piece of leather right here. I did have this as a B6 folio, and then I chopped it apart and I did a corset stitch here to merge it with this other piece so that I could make a trifold for the A6 size. And then I did the thing where I lined it with fabric again. You know, the book is just made to slip in here. And, you know, this is just so pretty. I'm so upset about this. And part of the reason that I was going to force myself to use the Hibino is because I had made this. But because this is a trifold, I could put A6 books in here plus other stuff, and it would just keep it all together. That's what I'm trying to tell myself anyway. But so here's this, and there's like no patina or anything on it, because Maverick does patina. It has these bright places, these little lightning strikes. They will actually get darker and become less prominent over time, which is so sad. But so I still think this one looks incredibly beautiful and dynamic. And maybe one day it will get some use. And then I have these. I just realized I skipped over like a middle size over here, but I'll get to that. I actually have a video where I went step by step making this. This is just a pocket size folio, and I'll link that video. But I made this, you know, for a field notes or two. And then I never really used it because I am just not really in field notes or pocket size for much of anything, which is why I don't have any other ones. But I don't know. If I decide to journal in that size or something, I like knowing that I have this sweet little option here. And then this was something new I made. This is in passport size. And it was just a way for me to make a pen holder, so it would just slip into my passport setup and I would have a pen holder. I prefer leather pen holders. They're just more secure to me. I don't like the like elasticated ones. And I made this little pocket to store stuff in, which ended up not being very helpful, but I do love that I did the scalloped edge there. So backing up into some bigger sizes here. This is a B6 Slim, and I used this for a little while because I had cut down I believe it was one of the Hobonichi notebooks, the plain notebooks, and I cut it down to B6 Slim size, more bloom, and I love this. I made this the same time that I made this A6 5-year because I had the black leather for the interior, so I really love this. This is a really old Breeze notebook, and yeah, the Taroko Shop Breeze notebook. So I had this one cut down at like FedEx for to be B6 Slim size, and this is partially used by my husband when he was trying to like take notes for work and everything. And most of this is still blank. So I took it back, and so this is a potential journal for me to use at some point. So I just kind of have it set up to use whenever I finish the current one I'm on, which is taking ages. But yeah, this one just reminds me of like a tree trunk or something. This one, so I have never shown this, and this is some weird, odd size, but it has the glazed harness on the inside again. And I made this several years ago because I had bought this. I bought the 10-year Midori diary, and let me just take it out of here. I bought this in 2021. And it never made it on my channel because, well, I only used it for a month and it just didn't pan out. But I did make this cover for it. And using it for that month was super fun because I got to pull out this like massive system, you know, this huge book with this beautiful leather cover made just for it. And look at that. And I had used this as like a journal to my husband. So I was writing like a little snippet to him every day. And it was really sweet. And it worked for a month. And then I fell off of it because it was just too much daily stuff to keep up with. But I was thinking, obviously I'm keeping this and I can easily cover over the month of writing that's in here and, you know, reuse this for something else. But I'm giving myself time to decide on that. And in the meantime, it's just sort of sitting idle just like this, but it is a really impressive, hefty setup. And the next thing I have are my weeks, my Hobonichi weeks sizes. And this is the last size, and then I'll show you the stuff that is currently in use. So this was one of the first ones I made, and this one was pretty laborious because it has all these vertical pockets in here and then these pen loops, which were such a pain. And it also pains me that the stitching is like really thick thread. But this used to be a standard size traveler's notebook, and I cut that apart because I really liked the texture on here and turned it into this weeks sized cover. And this one pains me because over time of using it, because I think I used it for at least a full year as a weeks cover, it got so much patina. And when I look at original photos of this, I'm just like, oh, no wonder I loved it, because everything just sort of blends in so much more now. But you know, it is what it is. And then I made these two to cover the weeks that I used to journal to my kids. And I was just hankering for some Maverick, and so I pulled them out of the Maker South covers and I made these. And on purpose, I picked a darker leather, a darker piece for this, and then a lighter piece for this, so it was easier for me to tell them apart when I would pick them up to work on them. And this was when I discovered thinner thread, and I just think it looks so much better. It blends in so much better. Oh, what was I thinking? But now I know better. So both of these, and I also, the color I picked originally for all my Mavericks was this lighter brown color. And it's just funny because on the spool of thread, this darker color looks incredibly dark, like super black almost. But then when I put them on the Maverick, even on a lighter version, they blend in better. So yeah, that was just another trial and error type of thing. And I quit using this color, I quit using this thickness, and switched over to this, and have been just exponentially happier with that. So glazed harness on the inside, simple folio covers. Really loving the vertical elastic still. If I'm gonna put an elastic on something, it's definitely gonna be vertical. I don't know why that is. And so then the last one is this, which I have used quite recently. And the scalloped pockets too. Oh, this is so nice. Glazed harness again. And this is what I used all last year for my Hobonichi Weeks cover that I used as my planner. And I love the texture on this. Ugh, it's so nice. But it used to be so much lighter and brighter, and you could see this texture so much more easily, and it has so much patina on it now, but when it hits the light right, you can see all the bumps and hills and things on it, and it's a beauty. So now I'll show you the ones that I currently have in use. I only recently got back into putting leather on my covers. My current Hobonichi Weeks doesn't have a leather cover on it. I'm just enjoying using it as it is. But I recently put together my passport size. This one is really, really special to me because I made this while I was pregnant with my daughter last year. And if you don't know, after I gave birth to her last year, she did not survive. She passed away a few minutes after she was born. And I just have such a good connection with this because I made it when I was pregnant with her, but I was like severely pregnant. So my belly was all in the way and I was just having to like contort my body in all different kinds of ways, you know, sprawled out on the floor trying to get this thing made. And this was really the only thing I made while I was pregnant with her. So I love when I can use this. This is her picture right here. So she's always gonna stay in here. And then I have my leather folder with a fabric interior that I made for this, and scalloped pockets. You know, whenever I can, I will do some scalloped pockets. But yeah, I'm just using this as my commonplace book. Right now, I've got a lot of setting up to do in here still, but love that texture on there. And then this is what I'm using as my just everyday type of journal. It's a very smooth type of Maverick leather, not very dynamic, not a lot of lightning strikes and things. But for some reason, I just really wanted a really plain, shiny cover like this that would just close on its own without an elastic. And so, yeah, so I've talked about these so much recently. I don't want to like harp on and on about it. But yeah, so that's commonplace book and passport, and then standard size, just everyday journal. And then this, I don't think I've shown this one like super recently, but this is my prayer book. Well, I made it to house my prayer book, and this is the first time I ever did a big clasp like this, and it was like nearly impossible to make, and I don't ever want to do it again. So I have another snap closure here, and it just has the same Midori A6 notebook as usual. And then I made this pen holder. So this is Maverick behind here. And then I took the glazed harness and cut out the cross and then glued it on top and stitched around to put my little pen loop in there for my clip. And I made it, you know, for my prayer book to hold this. And so that's that whole setup. And this just kind of follows me around the house, you know, morning prayers, evening prayers. It's usually by my bedside and everything. And I'm so attached to this, like probably these two, and for very different reasons. I'm just attached to both of these. These are like my favorite. So sorry for such a long video. I was like really trying to be efficient here. But yeah, so I'm a recovering leather addict. I mean, obviously I still love leather, but I'm just not this crazy leather buying fiend that I used to be years ago. But so yeah, this is everything in my collection. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.